Quite possibly the most contentious car, the Mazda Miata is loved by enthusiasts and scoffed at by the public. For those unfamiliar, it's a tiny, feminine hairdresser's car, but to those of us with higher intelligence, it represents one of the last pure enthusiast sports cars. A naturally aspirated engine, unburdened by the expectation of excessive power, with a manual gearbox sending power to the back. That's the formula, and it doesn't hurt that it's wrapped in the more aggressive RF body style, dipped in Mazda's sultry soul red paint. So let's grab the keys and go for a ride in the 2020 Mazda Miata RF. Okay, so I get the whole Miata ethos, it's pure driving experience, but I mean, can I get a glove box? The storage in here is abysmal. There's no glove box, there's no like door cutouts for storage in the door. You have this little cubby right here next to you, but the practicality really suffers, but that's the kind of trade-off you get in something like this. Now, with that also being said, I'm about 6'1". You may be able to be about 1 inch taller than me and still be able to fit in this relatively comfortably, although you will only be able to sit on one side of the car. I sat on the passenger side and, well, there's a big drivetrain hump right on the left side of the passenger side footwell, and it really impedes space. Now, I'm gonna harp on practicality and space and cargo once again, and that's the last thing I'll say about it, but my wife and I, we took a trip up to Holy Hill. That's where you're seeing all the pretty B-roll of the trees and the curvy driving roads and all that sort of thing. Now, we took a trip up there and we stopped to get food and coffee on the way up. And, well, we almost divorced because she was reaching for her phone up here. I was trying to change gear. I'm dropping stuff. There's nowhere to put like my drink because the cup holder came out. It was an absolute mess. However, that's not the point of this car. This is the point of this car. Driving it hard. Now, I don't want anyone to get confused. When I say driving it hard, that doesn't necessarily mean driving it fast. This is the most powerful Miata they have ever made at 181 horsepower. And with that being said, this is the ND.2, which means that they've revised the engine and a whole bunch of things that essentially makes the engine rev out a little bit higher. You get a little bit more experience behind the wheel, but that's not necessarily the point. Like I said, driving it hard, this is the most powerful Miata that they've ever made at 181 horsepower, and that's the glory of it. That is the character, and if you don't get that, you won't get this car. But that is the point. It's not overburdened with the expectation of setting lap times or pulling lateral G in a corner. It's just the experience of really pushing yourself as a driver, getting better at shifting, understanding how to climb through a rev band and get the most out of the car. Downshift a little bit. Now, I do want to talk about the gearbox, and yes, naturally aspirated engine up front, manual transmission here. You have a lovely notchy short throw from this shifter. The clutch engages right at the bottom of the pedal, and honestly, it's the pedal box that really kind of makes the experience. You can heel toe downshift like fantastically without issue. This is a fantastic car for someone that's really kind of starting to get into performance driving, something a little bit more challenging than your day-to-day, because the pedal box allows you to downshift, to heel toe, to get a lot more out of yourself and learn with a little bit of, I don't know, a protective blanket, let's say. So you come to a corner, you downshift, you get on the throttle about mid-corner, and then the power is going to the rear wheels. That's not new here, but what is kind of nice is on GT and club trims, you will get an LSD in the back. Managing your torque split, it adds for a little bit of fun, and that's where the character of this car comes in. It's not about power, it's not about the gearbox, it's about the dynamics. Now, this is the RF body style, which means it's a little bit heavier, but you have more weight over the back axle, bringing it closer to that 50-50 golden ratio of weight distribution. What that means is the car is incredibly neutral, so when you get up to a corner, you can absolutely just put it exactly where you want it without question. Now, If we're gonna talk about cornering, we should talk about suspension. It's a multi-link system in the back, and it composes the body pretty well. Now, the important thing to note is this is not a sports car per se, in the sense that it's not an all-out performance car, meaning that it doesn't like handle on rails. There is body roll to it. And to be honest, hold on, I'm gonna downshift through this corner. See, we're gonna pitch it in. Fantastic turn in, the steering rack is fantastic on center field, but then if you get on the power about mid-corner, you will feel the front start to wash out a little bit. You'll get a little bit of that understeer, and that's pretty typical. What you have to do is you have to understand how you're managing your turning input as well as your throttle input to manage that understeer so you don't wash out through a corner. Now, like we said, you will get body roll through here. Then the multi-link suspension in the rear is nice and it composes the body well, but it's that roll that kind of adds to the character of the car a little bit. It's not taking itself so seriously, and that's why things like that mixed with the under 200 horsepower, it's just a fun, unassuming car. It's not trying to be some performance hero. Now, if you want something that's a little bit stiffer, that's a little bit more buttoned down, yeah, you can go ahead and you could probably find yourself a used Honda S2000, because that's really the more aggressive version of this car, but for me, this is just fine.